That tiny predator sleeping at the foot of your bed? Give it a few thousand years without us, and it doesn't just survive, it evolves. Welcome to the vertical ruins of Manhattan, now the hunting ground of a 400-pound apex feline. It doesn't roar, it doesn't have to. Tonight, one father has exactly 6 hours to cross its territory, find a cure for his dying daughter, and get back underground. Because when the sun sets, you're no longer the master, you're prey. Let's dive in. Evan emerged from the tunnel at 5:47 in the morning. For the first time in 11 years, he saw the sky, or what remained of it. The towers of Manhattan rose around him like the blackened ribs of some colossal dead animal. Forests grew from shattered rooftops. Thick ivy crawled across office buildings. Ancient cars lay buried beneath moss and roots. Above him, hundreds of broken windows stared down like empty eyes. Evan stood perfectly still. He listened. Wind. Water dripping somewhere inside the ruins. The distant cry of a bird. Nothing else. That was good. He adjusted the pack on his shoulders and reached inside his jacket. A faded photograph. A little girl, 8 years old, dark hair, a missing front tooth. Her name was Mara. 3 days earlier, she had developed a fever. By yesterday morning, she could no longer stand. The doctors in the underground colony knew what she needed, antibiotics. But their last viable supply had been used years ago. There was only one possibility left, an emergency pharmaceutical vault beneath the old Metropolitan Museum. 8 kilometers away, across open territory. Evan had crossed dangerous ruins before, but never Manhattan, not since the stories began. When humanity fell, the pampered pets died, but the cat remembered how to hunt. As Manhattan transformed into a vertical ecosystem, the felines that moved upward survived. But Manhattan itself was changing. Forests pushed through concrete. Deer moved through abandoned streets. Birds nested by the thousands inside hollow towers. Elevator shafts became caves. Exposed steel beams became bridges. Collapsed floors created pathways hundreds of feet above the ground. The city was no longer a city. It had become a vertical ecosystem, and different feline populations followed radically different evolutionary paths. Some remained small, some disappeared. Others adapted to forests growing through suburban ruins. But in the great vertical cities, one lineage moved upward. The best climbers reached food that ground predators could not. Larger individuals could overpower bigger prey, survive harsher winters, defend their kills, and produce stronger offspring. Not in a century, not in 10, but across thousands upon thousands of generations. Natural selection reshaped them. Broader paws for unstable surfaces, massive hind limbs for explosive jumps, longer tails for balance, powerful shoulders capable of dragging prey into places no ground hunter could follow. Their world was made of broken stairwells, elevator shafts, exposed beams, collapsed sky bridges, and concrete cliffs rising hundreds of feet into the air. Millions of tons of steel and stone arranged vertically into the largest artificial mountain range ever built. And the cat had already been designed to climb. Humanity never created the urban lord, but we had built its perfect hunting ground. Evan discovered that at 7:13 in the morning, he found the deer hanging 6 feet above the street. The animal had been pulled halfway onto the roof of a collapsed city bus. Its neck was broken. 4 deep wounds crossed its shoulder. Evan stopped breathing. The deer weighed at least 200 pounds. Whatever had killed it had not simply brought it down. It had lifted it, dragged it 6 feet off the ground. Evan looked up. The monolithic skeletons of dead skyscrapers loomed overhead. Nothing moved. That was the terrifying part. Thousands of years earlier, the ancestor of whatever was watching him might have weighed 10 pounds. Now, it could kill a deer twice a man's weight and carry the body into the ruins. Evan slowly reached for the radio attached to his chest, then stopped. Noise was dangerous here. He kept walking, faster now. By 9:06, Evan reached Times Square. Every scout knew the rule: never cross open ground unless you have no other choice. Evan looked at his watch. Mara had taken away that choice. He stepped into the square. The massive screens were long dead. Trees grew from the shells of old restaurants. Rainwater filled craters in the road. Evan crossed quickly. 10 meters. 20. 30. Click. Evan stopped. A tiny sound. Metal touching stone. He looked to his right. Nothing. Then something landed softly on his shoulder. Dust. Evan looked up. He scanned the jagged ruins above. Empty. Click. This time from somewhere behind him. Evan turned. Nothing. Then he noticed the pigeons. Seconds earlier, hundreds had been feeding among the ruins. Now every one of them was gone. The square was completely silent. Evan remembered the first rule every surface scout learned. When the prey disappears, don't look for the prey. Look for what frightened it. A shadow moved across the wall above him. Evan ran. Behind him, something dropped from the darkness. Not with a roar, not with a crash. With a heavy, controlled thud. Then came the sound of claws touching stone. The urban lord did not chase like a wolf. It stalked like a cat. It waited until distance collapsed into a single explosive attack. Evan did not turn around. He reached the entrance of an abandoned hotel and threw himself through the shattered doors. Behind him, claws scraped briefly against concrete, then silence. Evan pressed himself against a wall. His heart hammered so violently he feared the animal could hear it. Perhaps it could. For nearly a minute, nothing happened. Then came a sound from the darkness outside. A vibration. Low, deep, almost gentle. A purr. The glass fragments on the floor trembled. Evan covered his mouth, and somewhere beyond the doorway, the creature waited. The purr was perhaps the most disturbing thing about the urban lord. The ancient sound had once filled bedrooms and living rooms. Humans associated it with warmth, safety, contentment. But inside the chest of a predator weighing hundreds of pounds, that familiar vibration became something else entirely. A warning, a territorial signal, a sound felt through floors and walls before its source was ever seen. For Evan, it meant one thing. The animal knew exactly where he was. The question was whether it considered him worth killing. Minutes passed. Then the pressure in the room seemed to vanish. Evan waited another 30 seconds. He looked toward the doorway. Empty. The predator was gone. Or at least, he could no longer see it. By noon, Evan reached the museum. Its great stone entrance had split open centuries earlier. Trees rose from the steps. The glass roof was gone. Rain, birds, insects, and creeping vines had transformed the grand halls into an artificial forest. Evan entered. The pharmaceutical vault lay 3 floors beneath him. He switched on his flashlight. The beam cut through dust and darkness. He passed the skeleton of an enormous prehistoric predator, mounted inside the remains of an exhibition hall. The irony was not lost on him. The ancient beast had been extinct for millions of years. The new predator needed no museum. It was outside, alive, hunting. Evan found the service stairs and moved underground. Level 1, Level 2, Level 3. Then he saw the vault door. For the first time that day, he smiled. Inside were shelves of sealed medical containers. Most were useless. Some had decayed. Others had been destroyed by moisture. Then he found it, a sealed military emergency case. Broad-spectrum antibiotics. His hands trembled. He placed the medicine carefully inside his pack. Mara had a chance. Then the flashlight beam disappeared. Evan froze. The bulb had not failed. Something had moved in front of it. Something enormous. He slowly raised the light. 2 green eyes stared back at him, 20 feet away. The urban lord lay across the remains of a collapsed marble staircase, motionless, watching. Its charcoal gray coat disappeared into the stone around it. Massive shoulders rose beneath the fur. One forepaw rested against a broken display case. The claws were hidden, for now. Evan stopped breathing. His pulse slammed against his throat. A bead of sweat moved slowly down the side of his face. He wanted to wipe it away. He didn't dare. Then he saw the object hanging beneath the animal's neck. Metal. A small brass tag. The surface had been almost completely eaten away by time, but 4 letters remained. L-U-N-A. Luna. Evan stared at the name. He could not know how the tag had survived, whether the animal had found it somewhere in the ruins or carried it from some forgotten nest filled with the relics of humanity. But once, thousands of years earlier, that name had probably belonged to something small. Something a child might have called across an apartment. Something that might have come running. Now 400 pounds of muscle watched Evan from the darkness. The animal rose. Evan's right hand moved instinctively toward the gun at his hip. The urban lord stopped. So did Evan. His fingers hovered 3 inches from the grip. He knew the truth immediately. He could draw, maybe even fire, but the cat would reach him before the second shot. And inside his backpack was the medicine Mara needed to survive. For one terrible moment, Evan saw his daughter waiting beneath the earth for a father who would never return. He slowly moved his hand away from the weapon. The cat steps down from the staircase, one paw, then another. Almost no sound. 400 pounds of muscle crossing marble, and Evan heard nothing but the faint click of one claw against stone. The animal came closer, 15 feet, 10, 6. He could smell damp fur, earth, old blood. Its whiskers moved forward, testing the air around him. Evan lowered his eyes. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to run. He thought of Mara. Don't move. The urban lord leaned closer. Evan felt its breath against his face. Warm, slow. His knees nearly gave way. 1 second passed, then another. And Evan understood something worse than fear. The animal wasn't hesitating. It was deciding. Its nose moved once beside his shoulder. Its green eyes remained fixed on him. Then the great cat turned away. It walked past him, so close that its fur brushed against his jacket. Evan did not move. The urban lord disappeared into the darkness behind him. Only then did Evan breathe. His legs collapsed beneath him. He hit the marble floor and covered his mouth with one hand. Not because he was crying, because he was terrified the animal might still hear him. Inside his backpack, the medicine was intact. Mara still had a chance. And Evan understood the truth. He had not escaped. He had been dismissed. The relationship between humanity and the urban lords was not one of constant war. That would have been easier to understand. They did not naturally hunt humans, not yet. In most encounters, they treated people as intruders, competitors, occasional threats, but never masters. And perhaps that was the deepest humiliation of all. Humanity had once redesigned entire ecosystems, built towers higher than mountains, moved rivers, illuminated continents, domesticated animals, or believed it had. Now the descendant of something that once slept inside our homes could watch a human cross its territory and decide whether that life was worth taking. We did not tame the wild. We merely interrupted it. At 5:21 in the evening, Evan reached Times Square again. Sunset was less than an hour away. He could already hear movement in the buildings, distant scraping, birds fleeing rooftops, something large crossing steel above him. He kept moving. Then he saw the subway entrance. Home was less than a kilometer away. Evan ran down the steps. Behind him, a low vibration rolled through the city. One purr. Then another answered from several blocks away. Then another. Evan stopped. There wasn't one urban lord in Manhattan. There were many. Different territories, different towers, different hunters. And night was beginning. He ran deeper into the tunnel. The city behind him disappeared into darkness. Mara survived. The medicine worked. Weeks later, Evan sat beside her as she drew with a piece of charcoal. A city, a man standing in the street, and high above him, two green eyes watching from the roof of a skyscraper. Mara looked up. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Did the cat try to kill you?" Evan stared at the drawing. "No. Why not?" For a long moment, Evan said nothing. Then he looked toward the ceiling. Thousands of feet above them, Manhattan was disappearing into darkness. "I don't think I was important enough. We built the concrete jungle, but the urban lord inherited it. Proof that we never truly tamed nature. We just interrupted it. Now, imagine you're stranded in these vertical ruins at sunset. You can hear a 400-pound hunter stalking you from the steel beams above. You get one weapon, one tool, and one companion. What is your ultimate survival loadout? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. If you want to explore more dark timelines where biology breaks its chains, hit subscribe and welcome to What If Animals. Remember, when the lights go out, the animals don't stop evolving. Stay out of the shadows, and I'll see you in the next archive.